As the confirmation vote for Kavanaugh looks set for this weekend, we can't forget what happened at the very start of this whole fight. Most importantly, how did reporters get their hands on Christine Ford's account in the first place? Now, the Washington Post says that Ford made the initial contact through the anonymous tip line. And only after she had built a rapport with the Post reporter Emma Brown did Ford decide to come forward and give her on-the-record account. But I want to play this moment during the hearing, which really jumped out at me when I first watched it, that I don't think is getting enough attention. Ford was asked about the decision to come forward and said this.
Ultimately, because reporters were sitting outside of my home, a reporter appeared in my graduate classroom, and I mistook her for a student. And she came up to ask me a question, and I thought that she was a student, and it turned out that she was a reporter.
The Washington Post, in a statement to the Ingraham Angle tonight, reaffirmed that Ford came to them solely through their tip line, and that it was reporters from other outlets who confronted Ford at her home and place of residence. So where does that leave us? Back to Democratic members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Now, remember, Senator Feinstein was confronted about possible leaks last week and had this kind of interesting exchange with Senator John Cornyn.
Can you tell us that your staff did not leak it?
Oh, I don't believe my staff would leak it. I have not asked that question directly, but I do not believe
you know
they
that?
would.
Have you asked your staff or other staff members in the Judiciary Committee?
Pardon me? Well, Jennifer reminds me I've asked her before about it, and that's true.
Well, the Jennifer she referenced there is a woman named Jennifer Duck, her longtime chief of staff, who now works on the Judiciary Committee for the Democrats and seems to be the authority on the question of leaks. We take the Post at their word that their involvement in this story came solely through the tip line, but what we're less clear on tonight is how the other reporters found themselves in possession of Ford's identity. It's just strange. We reached out to Feinstein's office for clarity, and as of 5 minutes ago, they had not gotten back to us. Here to react, Howie Kurtz, host of Media Buzz right here on Fox News, and American Conservative Union head Matt Schlapp. All right, Howie, let's start with you. Assuming the Post is being honest here, how do we think all these other reporters found out about Ford and her account?
Extremely strong circumstantial evidence that it came from Feinstein's staff, because staff members don't tell the boss, hey, I'm about to leak this. And look where the leaks went. First, it was the left-wing site, The Intercept, that found out about the anonymous letter. Then the New York Times said, oh, it's about a woman and some sort of sexual thing. And then it was a BuzzFeed reporter, also a liberal site, that went to Ford's home and Ford's where she was teaching. And then finally, the New Yorker gets the actual letter and publishes it. It was at that point that Christine Ford said, people know who I am, journalists know who I am, I'm going to tell my own story to the Washington Post.
But, Matt, the idea that some person like Christine Ford just, okay, how can I get this? I'll just type it on the anonymous tip line. I don't know, it's my spidey senses. Something about this story just doesn't add up. And given the importance of guarding these documents, uncorroborated allegations of the Senate Judiciary Committee, to avoid this happening again, shouldn't it be the case that the cell phones, emails, texts, whether deleted or not, are preserved? You can get them back. Any text you delete, sorry, you can get it back. All those are preserved, and we find out any connections between Feinstein's office and the Washington Post, specifically friendships, romantic relationships between Feinstein's people, or friendships and the Post.
Yeah, so out of Thomas and Anita Hill, there was some learnings. And one of them is, when you go back and do this FBI report, only senators can look at it. I think we're going to need some learnings out of this, Laura. Here's what we know. Either Dr. Ford is a terrible victim in all this because she did want to stay confidential, or Dr. Ford, in combination with these Democrat staffers and members, and maybe Anna Eshoo, the Democrat that started this whole thing, and maybe with the lawyers who they found for her, they were trying aggressively to push Dr. Ford to be public. So they were actually leaking on Dr. Ford to get her out there because they wanted the emotions of that hearing. That's what they wanted. They thought that would derail it all.
Howie,
They got the opposite.
Yeah, Howie, the Washington Post responded to us today by saying, no one leaked anything to us. She ultimately decided she was willing to put her name on the record after reporters from other outlets appeared at her home and workplace, at which time we chose to publish her story. Again, does that ring true?
It is true that the Washington Post didn't go with the story without on-the-record interviews and saw the therapist notes and all of that and tried to do a legitimate investigation. But I've covered so many of these stories, Laura. What happens is that it becomes like an open secret. A source tells one reporter, maybe a source tells two reporters. Reporters talk to each other. Nobody quite wants to go with it because it's an explosive allegation. They don't have the complainant on the record, but eventually gets out there and somebody goes and tries to ambush the person or hang out or stalk them, and that's how it eventually hits print. And I believe that Christine Ford was sort of pressured into going public, which she clearly did not want to do.
Okay, there's another exchange we have to focus on. This was also regarding the, was it the triangle? What is it called? The
Devil's Triangle.
Devil's Triangle, thank you. This was Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon last night. Let's watch.
How does he sign it?
He signs it FFFFF.
Boy, he sure loves making fun of that stuttering guy.
That's not stuttering.
That's what he says it was.
That is not stuttering. Again, do a Google search. That FFFF is not stuttering, okay? And Devil's Triangle is not a drinking game, all right? He knows that. Everybody else does, except for maybe some senators who want to believe him.
Other tweets. This is really fascinating TV. Other tweets. If Judge Kavanaugh is shown to have lied to the committee about Devil, Jeff Flake, it's over. Jeff Flake, oh yes. Oh, it turns out, of course, it was a drinking game, and other friends of Kavanaugh, I guess, in sworn statements to the FBI. It looks like in this report, like, yeah, this was a drinking game, guys. Apparently, you're a bunch of geeks and never played it.
You got to give Don Lemon a lot of credit. He seems to know a lot about this. He accused me the other day on the show of being a racist because I had been criticizing Kamala Harris and Cory Booker for their outrageous behavior. It's like what passes for news. No, it's racism. Oh. And but it's okay to pick on a Catholic. That's one thing that we've learned in this whole process. And I just think that why don't we just cover the fact? I'd love to know his jurisprudence. What's his philosophy? Drinking games, Devil's Triangle.
Didn't he say that Malaysian jet went down in a black hole some months ago?
That could be racist too.
Yeah, no, he said it was like could it have been a black hole or something? But
I'm much more careful with my Fs.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of Fs.
I'm not going anywhere near that, guys. Fantastic segment. We're going to stay on the leak issue, by the way.